I'm sorry. Good evening. Thank you for attending this evening's regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of Little Elm ISD. Today is December 18th, 2017. We'll call to order at 6:30 p.m. At this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas state flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. This time we'll do invocation. Mr. English.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. I appreciate that. This evening, we will have invocation presented to us by Dwayne Brewer, who is a pastor of Cowboy Church of Cooper Creek in Aubrey. We really appreciate the time for you to come and spend time with us to do invocation. This is something that we started about 3.5 years ago, so really appreciate your time.
All right. Let's pray. Heavenly Father God, Lord, we're so thankful that we live here in Little Elm. God, we thank you for the recent bond election. We thank you for the leadership of our school board and all of our staff and administration of our school district, God. God, I pray that you will give them wisdom as they lead our community. God, we thank you that we see such growth taking place and have such a great school district, Lord. God, I just pray that you will bless all of our faculty and staff that work within our school district. And God, we thank you for all those that volunteer to help make Little Elm such a great town. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. At this time, Ms. Padilla, can you do introduction and roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Daniel Gallagher.
Present.
Mr. Dan Blackwood.
Present.
Ms. Leanna Harding.
Here.
Mr. David Montemayor.
Present.
Ms. Melissa Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Jason Olson.
Here.
Mr. Alejandro Flores.
Present.
Mr. DeLeon Angel.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Next up is approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on November 13th. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the superintendent spotlight. Mr. Gallagher.
Yes, President Myers, board members, at this time I'd like to call Ms. Renee Pentecost to the podium to recognize some of our great students at the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher, President Myers, and board. I so look forward to this evening every month to get to come and introduce you to a few more of our bright and shining stars at Little Elm High School. And at this time, I would like to invite Dalton Capps, who is a junior at Little Elm High School, and Hayden Ingram up to the podium with me. Dalton, right here to my right, is a junior. He currently is taking 2 dual credit courses, 3 AP courses, and is a baseball player. Very ambitious young man. One day he wants to be a lawyer, and he has his sights on Vanderbilt Law School. In the meantime, he spends a lot of time in center field, not only at Little Elm baseball field, but he plays on a club team, so plays throughout the summer. He's been here in Little Elm his entire life. Obviously, with his course load, he is doing well in his academics and is currently a member of our National Honor Society. And here are a few things that his teachers had to say about Dalton. His art teacher said, "Dalton is such a hardworking person who doesn't give up on wanting to perfect his artwork. I can always count on Dalton to be one of the last ones drawing, but his work truly shows the hard work he puts in. I'm so glad to have him as a student." Dalton's science teacher says Dalton is always polite and respectful and a pleasure to work with. He is a good student who is always prepared, asks great questions, and never misses class. I like that one. Then Mr. Schragi, who is his law class, even sent a nice photo of Dalton when he was preparing for mock trial, and he plays the part well, and we're looking forward to what he does in the future in our community. So Mr. Dalton Capps. Next, Miss Hayden Ingram. She is a sophomore, and Hayden plays tennis, not on the school team, but just for fun when she can find time, because she is also on our LEHS Lobo band, spends lots of time playing the piccolo, and as such, she made the all-region band. And she is interested in astronomy. One day wants to study and do something space-related. I think that's a pretty good future. That's probably our last frontier. So looking forward to seeing what you do there. She has a brother who's a senior at Little Elm High School. And as evidenced by her interest in astronomy, she is a young lady who is currently in 2 pre-AP science classes. So that is something she truly enjoys. And some of the things that her teachers had to say about her, Hayden Ingram is a very talented and hardworking student as a piccolo player in our band. She not only placed in the 9th grade all-region band, but just recently placed in the 5A all-region band as a sophomore. Hayden has been in the top band at LEHS, the Wind Ensemble, since arriving at high school. She is a gifted musician and a wonderful student. That was from Mr. Felice. Her English teacher said Hayden is always on task from the moment she walks in class. She's focused, accepts feedback well, and is willing to do the work to improve. I never hear her complain, a rare quality in a high school student. And Miss Goldsmith, her science teacher, said Hayden is a good student. She always helps her classmates if they need help in class, and she's very polite and sweet. And last, Miss Veriker says Hayden is always kind, sweet, and has a smile on her face. She has a great work ethic. She is a hard worker, turns in her work on time, and even helps others when needed. She has a great sense of self and her peers. She picks up on others' feelings, showing empathy and sympathy when needed. She is a well-rounded, overall great person and a joy to have in class. So just a few of our great students at Little Elm High School. Miss Hayden Ingram. Thank you so much.
And while they're taking pictures, I just want to say congratulations to Hayden and Dalton, and also to their parents. You all have done a great job. We've got obviously 2 great kids right here, but you all have done a wonderful job. So.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to recognize you. Dalton's stepdad is here in the audience. Why don't you take a bow? Oh, and somebody's
Mom.
And Mom. Sorry, I didn't get to meet her. And Hayden's mom, I think, is here. Yes, yes. Good job. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
All right. President Myers, board members, in keeping with the theme of recognition, at this time I want to call Dr. Tony Tipton to the front to recognize members of our PAC. And I don't want to steal too much of Tony's thunder, but I can tell you I've gotten to know each and every one of these members and the work that they did to help the district and to help the community pass this bond. We just can't thank them enough. So at this time, I'll let Dr. Tipton take over.
All right, thank you very much, President Myers and Board of Trustees and Superintendent Gallagher. Thank you so much for letting me have the honor of this ceremony tonight. I really appreciate it. And tonight's a special night for recognitions. And we know as a district how important it is to honor all of those who help our district, which ultimately helps our kids. So we would like to take this time to recognize the Wolfpack members who worked so hard to help with the success of the recent 2017 bond election. These members worked long hours promoting the potential benefits this election holds for our community and our kids, and we're so proud of them. So if you are a member of the PAC committee, would you please stand and come on up to the front here? Come on up. Come on up. And we have something very special for each of you tonight. I know I'm going off microphone here, Cecilia, but we have signed some of the flyers that were used to help promote the bond, and the members of our superintendent's leadership team. Can I get one more, Cindy? Members of our superintendent's leadership team, we all signed these in recognition of you and your work. And we're so proud to have you as partners, and so proud of what we were able to accomplish and what this is going to mean for our kids and for our community. So again, thank you so much for your work, and we hope you enjoy the tokens. But really, the real reason that we're here tonight is the PAC has generously decided to make several donations to the district at different levels. So each elementary school and the Powell 6th grade center, PTAs, will receive a $500 donation. And so I'm going to call up each campus representative to be greeted by the PAC members and then to receive a check from Mr. Griffin. Do you have the check, sir? Okay. All right. Very good. And so, all right, Mr. Griffin, do you want to go toward the end here, or go toward this end so they can come along here and shake your hand and receive the check? So would the press? You mean hold this for you?
That'd be great.
Okay. Gotcha. So you bet. You bet. Would the Prestwick PTA please come up and receive your check? Is there somebody from Prestwick here tonight? Come on up. If you want to, why don't you let's shake the PAC members' hands and come on down here.
Nobody from Prestwick showed up. We were going to split this and give it to the other PTAs. So we're glad you came. Absolutely.
And if I could get you guys to stay up here, you want to come, we're going to get a picture there. Oh, you're going to do, okay, very good. And if the Chavez representatives will come up. Chavez, PTA, Mr. Severe's here.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
I get the money.
Thank you guys so much. Yes. Absolutely. Have a good night.
And can we get the Powell PTA or representative to come on up? This is Powell, yes, sir. Powell, 6th grade.
Welcome to the board.
And Hackberry.
Have your check right on top. Congratulations.
And our friends from Lakeview.
check too.
And Oak Point. You're going to get a picture of all of them. Okay. And I think that Miss Cecilia is going to do a photo. Oh, I'm sorry, and Brent. My apologies, and Brent. My apologies. And you guys were second on the list, and it just slipped right by me.
It's all her.
Okay.
All right, are you going to get a full total picture here?
Am I?
Yeah, you're on.
This is gonna be a challenge, you're a big group, so we're gonna have to squeeze in the middle, and I'm gonna step back into your steps.
Okay. I'm gonna do.
Dr. Tipton.
We're gonna do the 500s, and then we're gonna do the 12,
You're calling me to do those, I appreciate it.
Dr. Tipton, one thing I want to say a couple of words while we're taking the picture.
I don't know, are you?
Can you hear me?
No.
Am I? I've lost control.
Here, you want this one?
Yeah. Why is it? Dr. Tipton, as they are taking a picture, I want to say a couple words. Just. I feel like we all have to be quiet during pictures for some reason. But I want to say a couple words. Just a thank you to, obviously, to our PTA representatives and principals that are here. Coming from an elementary background, I can tell you how important the PTA is. We cannot do the work that we do, and I know principals, you'll agree, without the support of the PTA. So our PTA is extremely important to the work that we do on a daily basis. So I want to say thank you to our PTA, number one, and number two, to our PAC members. The bond passing. Yeah, I don't think you're done yet. The bond passing.
PAC members stay.
The bond passing was something that is going to impact this district for decades and decades to come. Your commitment, what you all put into this, along with our community members and every single member of the community that voted, is going to make a huge impact. And I want to thank you personally, and again, on behalf of the board, for the work that you did for our school district, and most importantly, for our kids. So thank you all so much for what you did. And Tony?
Yeah, and Mr. Gallagher, the PAC has also generously decided to donate $500 to each of our new middle school libraries via the Education Foundation. Of course, when the new middle schools get up and running, if I could have Amy Hillock, president of the foundation, and Jeff Wiseman, executive director for digital learning and library services, to come up, we would love to present these checks to you on behalf of the PAC. Grab photos. And Miss Hillock, if you'll stay up, please. You're receiving more money. The PAC is also generously donating to the Education Foundation for 2 scholarships of $1,250 each, and an open donation of $975.69 for the foundation. So congratulations. You want to come grab the? Yes, absolutely. Yes, come on up.
Thank you.
Great, good job, good job.
just going to say something.
And while you're taking the picture, I'll take another moment to say a couple words about the foundation. For those of you that are not aware, the foundation, we had, and I know it's trademarked, we're not supposed to say Prize Patrol, but we went around and gave scholarships and grants to teachers who applied for them. So the foundation last week gave, Amy, tell me if I'm correct, $22,000 in grants? So just under $23,000 in grants to our teachers, and I can tell you it was just it was exciting to see the excitement of the teachers. It was just a joy to be there. So thank you to the foundation for what you guys are doing for our district and our teachers, and ultimately for our kids.
And something actually quite unexpected happened tonight, and there's very exciting for our foundation. The organization Give 10 Back, which is kind of an in-kind purchasing organization where we purchase things and they give 10% back. Denise Hunty made a purchase and her name happened to be drawn in a random monthly drawing. And so the foundation has also been awarded another $1,000 tonight to help our kids. So.
They want to give me the mic, so I'm going to speak kind of from here. I think it's important that y'all know who these folks are, rather than just inviting them up. I think it's important that you know Nick Daughtry is here, Alex Romero, Chris Wigington, Frank Harding, Serona Winfrey, and Mary Walters, and I'm sorry, Watkins. I had it right. I just can't read. I didn't make it through elementary. And also, I think Debbie Carter was going to be here. Is she not here? Well, anyway, these people spent so much time. I know they were outside the football stadium with me, handing out lollipops to people, saying, please vote yes. And they walked up and they put signs in front of people's houses. These are truly dedicated leaders in this community. And they deserve your recognition and appreciation, which I'm sure you do. But we also need to give recognition to 70% of the people who voted yes for the bonds. So thank you for those who are here that voted yes. Thank you for all those people who are not here that voted yes. We really appreciate the support that this community gave this bond program. And I think that from here on out, there'll be a statement that's more than an election. It's a campaign of community unity for these schools. So thank you again for being here, for allowing us to recognize these fine folks that work really hard. And there's one other person that's not here that I'd like to thank personally. And that's somebody who gave me permission to spend so many nights out while she was doing 18 weeks of chemotherapy. And tonight she's preparing for surgery. And that's my wife. And so she allowed me to spend so many nights out, so many days out, putting up signs and handing out cards. I just wanted to thank her even though she couldn't be here. So thank you for the opportunity.
And Mr. Gallagher, I think you have something special for...
Well, actually, you do, but
I do. Well, but
yeah.
I thought you were going to take this one. So,
oh, sure. One of the things that we want to do, we thought it would be nice as we gave the members of the PAC the framed document. We wanted to give each one of you a signed sign as a token of just remembering just the great work that y'all did. Again, you guys were the ones that called this bond election. And we're very proud of, as Mr. Griffin said, just the outcome that we had nearly 70% of the community be behind it. And it started right here with this board and the work that we did as a district. So I want to thank each of you for your work and leadership on it. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next item. And one of the things that, just one of the honors that I have as superintendent is to recognize members of our family. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on in Little Elm ISD is that we are a member, or we are a family here, and we consider the people that we work with members of our family. And one of the ways we recognize them, and Dr. Strike and the board started this a couple years ago, was the Triple E Award. And the Triple E Award is an award given to, again, members of our family that do extraordinary things that impact the whole district, impact our entire district, other campuses and other teachers. And this award, I thought long and hard about who to recognize, because as you know, we've got incredible people in this district, and there's so many people that we can recognize. But I started thinking about three things: commitment to our kids, commitment to our teachers, and commitment to our district. And I thought about what is one thing that I've really seen, and it's really made a huge impact, and it's, we call it Lobos Care. And Lobos Care started a couple years ago when two of our principals went to visit Southwest Airlines. And one thing you know about Southwest Airlines is their culture is incredible. They have an incredible culture that it's really about celebrating each other, and it's a place that people love to work. And the two principals that went, they came back. One of the principals jumped on it and really led it from the beginning. In fact, the very first Lobos Care meeting was at her campus, and her goal was to get this out. It was a mission to move this across our district. And at this time, I want to call up Kelly Carr, the principal at Lakeview Elementary, to be recognized. And one of the things, I feel like I need a handheld mic. One of the things I'll say about Kelly, Lobos Care, obviously, and she'll be the first to say, well, this was a joint effort, and it was, and she's going to be quick to recognize other people that helped her. But I will tell you, that's one thing about Kelly is she wants to give credit to others as well, and that's one of the things that makes her just such an amazing leader. But Kelly steps up in so many different areas, and I'll give you another example. She's leading our kindergarten through second grade report card revision in the district. So no matter what we do, we can ask Kelly for her help anywhere in the district. She's willing to step up. She's also willing to challenge, which I like. She's willing to question, and she's a great leader and an incredible principal, and she deserves this recognition. I'm proud to give this recognition to her.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and well-deserved, and again, just very proud to have you as a member of our family and a leader in our district. So thank you, Kelly. And Kelly, really quick, do you want to introduce, it looks like you have some family members here?
Yes, my husband, Jeff. Mom, my son, Hugh, and Kate. He was supposed to come home until Wednesday night, so. Stacy, his beautiful girlfriend, my mom and my dad.
And family, thank you all so much for being here. We're very proud of Kelly, and I know you are as well. And it looks like your entire staff came almost. So thank you all for being here as well. At this time, I want to invite our mayor of Little Elm, Mr. David Hillock, to come to the podium to say a few words.
There's no particular topic. Daniel just said I could come talk about anything I wanted to. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Actually, I think I actually left a script for you up there.
Actually, I've been given a pretty significant honor tonight, and I'm very happy to be here for it. I want to throw a couple of unscripted words in before I do. I've been given the opportunity tonight to provide a proclamation to Dr. Lowell Strike for his service to our community. So, Dr. Strike, if you would come join me, I would appreciate it. I was among a great many of us in this community who were just tickled pink when he showed up at the door and changed the direction of this district so dramatically and made such a difference in just the heart and the feel and the pride that Little Elm ISD had to offer to the Little Elm community. For me, it was a big deal. A lot of people know this because it's been on Facebook 4 million times. My kids went to private school. Today, I would be very honored to send my kids to Little Elm ISD. And that is not something that I could do years ago. So I commend the board. I certainly commend Dr. Strike for his willingness to serve here. I know you didn't have to, but I certainly commend you for that. At one point, one of the trustees, Alex Flores, and I were sharing a little exchange on Facebook, which we do sometimes. And those don't always go well, but this one did. and I told him at that time that if this was the only thing he did as a trustee, bringing Dr. Strike to this district, it was worth it. It was worth whatever these guys had to go through to get in the chairs they're in today, whatever effort they had to put into it, whatever pain they had to feel, whatever temporary suffering they had to go through. It was worth it to have someone whose commitment was to the district rather than to their future. And I think you get both out of it. I think you got to have the joy of leading the district and the nice stamp to put on your I won't say anything too permanent, but a nice stamp to put on your postcard for what you did in our community. But I want to read this proclamation now, but know that although I didn't even write it, it comes from my heart. And I sincerely appreciate what you've given to our community. And one of the things you've given to our community is your successor, Daniel Gallagher. And I look forward to his leadership, walking in your footsteps as we continue forward. So, a proclamation by the mayor of the town of Little Elm. Whereas Dr. Lowell H. Strike has made educating children a professional priority, serving as a teacher, coach, principal, administrator, and superintendent, and has volunteered his time over the last 3 years enriching the lives of children in Little Elm as superintendent of the Little Elm Independent School District. During his tenure on the Little Elm ISD, Dr. Strike has been a dedicated supporter of students, teachers, administrators, and staff of the district, while also striving to manage the district's explosive growth. Under his and the board's leadership, Little Elm ISD is a shining example of educational excellence that makes a difference in the lives of its students and in the community. The town of Little Elm extends its appreciation to Dr. Strike, not only for his service to Little Elm ISD and his dedication to education excellence for our children, but also for his 40-year career as an educator. Now, therefore, I, David Hillock, mayor of the town of Little Elm, Texas, join with the members of the town council to recognize and honor Dr. Lowell H. Strike and urge all citizens to express their appreciation to him for his years of service to the Little Elm ISD and the care he has shown Little Elm students over the years. Our community has benefited because of his desire to make a difference. And then I sign it. But I already did that. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hillock. Before Cecilia grabs a picture, I'll just say a few words. I could talk a long time, but I'm not going to. I think in Mayor Hillock, while this is important that this came from you, I think the words that you talked about not having faith in the district and then seeing it change is a huge credit to a lot of people. This community that has kind of woken up and said, hey, we can be something. We don't have to accept mediocrity. And I would say when I came, the number one thing I felt was people who were willing to accept mediocrity. They worked hard, they cared, but mediocrity was what was expected, and it ran through the veins in this district in a lot of places. And when people finally came to the realization that, hey, we can be as good as we want to be. They were unstoppable. And I always say there's nobody in an organization that's more important than anybody else, and especially in ours. We all just serve in different roles. Doesn't matter whether it's a custodian or whether it's a cafeteria worker, a bus driver. Doesn't matter the role all the way to superintendent or the board. Nobody's more important than anybody else. But when you all come together to work for one common good, and that's one of the things that I really love about our board, is that there isn't a single person up here that isn't about children. There's no ego. This isn't about, hey, I'm a board member. This is about me. It's about, I want to serve children. And as far as just pure democracy of being elected to serve, you can't get any better than what happens at the school board level. And so for those that were on the board when I was hired, and I know we've turned three folks over since then that have moved or made the decision not to run, all quality people, what you see sitting before you is the catalyst for allowing the folks of this district, and I just had the privilege to lead those folks, to make a difference for kids. And I remember before, I lived in the school district actually when I was hired, and I was deputy superintendent in another district, and I remember shopping at the Kroger, and I thought, you know, someday I would love to serve these people, and I don't know what hit me, but it did, and it worked out. And some of you have heard the story about finding out about the opening when I was in Jamaica from a teacher at Little Elm High School who happened to be at the same resort in Jamaica. And so it's just been a good 3 years, probably planned on maybe 5. But at the point that I saw how fast the district came, how supportive the board is, when I say supportive of the board, if you go to superintendent conferences, what you hear in all the little groups around is, oh, what's your board like? Oh, my board this. And oh, I got a board member. We don't have a single person like that because they have one focus, and that's kids. And then the folks that were able to join the district and from within the district, amazing people when I got here. They just needed some goal focus and needed to have some cohesion, and that came together. I wouldn't have retired at this point if I felt like we were not in good hands and going to be taken care of. And I think that runs all the way through, and talked about community and sense of community. Mayor Hillock, the folks that you have on your staff, there is, I promise, because I've been in lots of different towns, there are no finer people than the folks that work for Little Elm as a town. Amazing at how they stepped up and the things that they want to do to help us. Even when we didn't ask, they were willing to go to other places and help us out if we were having a problem that maybe wasn't even their territory, but they said, hey, we'll take care of you. And so that servant leader attitude that folks in this town have, and with the school district and us being able to come together, great things are going to continue to happen for kids. And I sent the board, I think right before I retired or announced I was going to retire, a list of things that we as a district had accomplished, and it was about 3 pages long. And they were great things, and again, all for kids. And then the time period since Mr. Gallagher was named as board, or as the superintendent by the board, things have just continued to skyrocket. And when I read some of the things, it's like, it's a good thing I got out of the way, because now they can really take off. But anyway, I love this school district. I'm honored, humble, proud to have been able to serve the folks here, and look forward to seeing all the great things that are going to happen into the board. Thank you. I never forget the day that Mr. English and Ms. Myers came over to interview folks in Eagle Mountain to see if I was maybe a fit, and then some of the comments that have come from board members along the way afterwards from Ms. Harding and Mr. Flores in particular, who were on the board at that time, in saying, as soon as we interviewed, we knew you were the right person, and it was the right thing. And when I got the call from Mr. English to say, we'd like you to be our next superintendent, it was hard for me to talk for a while, because it was a dream. And you guys are just unbelievable, and I know you're going to continue to do great things for kids. So thank you for your support, because without your support and allowing me to do what I thought my job was, we wouldn't be where we're at. So God bless all of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone here. Thank you.
So One of the things okay, we're going to do a quick picture, but do you want one do we want the whole board? Okay. I'll say this while we're taking a picture. One of the things, I don't fear public speaking, but I always have that, every time I go after Lowell, anytime I can speak up in Lowell, that's a tough one for me. But what I'll say while I'm sitting down is, I remember the day that Lowell came into my office in the district we worked in before. You ready?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more.
I remember the day that Lowell and I worked in the other district he referred to. And I knew the position had opened because he told me he was going to apply. And of course, I was happy that he was applying, but I knew he was going to leave. I knew he would get the job. And when, in fact, for some of it, Ms. Myers and Mr. English, it was during the interview process, they came over and interviewed, asked me questions about Lowell. And I actually did tear up a little bit. I think you'll probably remember that, because of the impact that he made on not just my life, but the lives of everybody in that district. And we're feeling the same thing here. When you have somebody like that makes that kind of impact across the district, you don't experience that very often. I've been doing this now 21 years. He's the only person that I've ever met that can make this kind of impact in such a short amount of time. And one of the things we're working on in the district is the commitment to excellence process. We talk about the ripple effect. And one of the things I thought about was when y'all hired him, unknowingly, you were creating a ripple effect that we as a district are going to will experience his leadership and really what he's meant to the district for just decades and decades to come. So again, we'll have time, but we're not done celebrating Dr. Strike. We just need to pin down your schedule, and we've got a couple other things we're going to plan.
Good luck.
Yeah, we've already, believe me, Sonia's been working on that. Board members, did you want to?
Wow. What can I say? I think back 3.5 years ago as we sat here in front of this board, and me, Mrs. Myers, Mr. Flores, and Ms. Harding, we had a really difficult decision to make. And things were, not to say the least, in a lot of turmoil. And at the time, being the president of the board, is my responsibility to go out and find the next leader who would lead our district. And so we sat down and we really discussed what that really meant. And we went out and talked to our community to find out what that really meant. And we found a great search person, Dr. Bob Griggs, who would help us find the next leader for our district. And I remember talking to Mr. Hillock and others about what was going on in the district, because there was a lot of turmoil at the time. And we finally made a decision that it was time to go look for that leader, and that was one of my responsibilities. And after the interview, I remember saying to myself, we found the guy who could lead our district. And we almost instinctively all sat there and really knew that this was the next person. And I remember calling him and saying, Lowell, let's sit down and talk. We want you to be our next leader. And we sat down and talked about what were the important things, the steps that we had outlined that would lead our district forward. And you've executed on every single one of those steps we asked you to execute on and move this district forward. You look at the LEAF, for example. We talked about that when you first came aboard, about how important that would be to the community. We talked about committees, about creating committees, about joining the community, about the community being involved. Just all these things that were important that we did not have prior to you being here. And now we look at it and we say, wow, look at what the difference 3.5 years has made. And also for me and you sitting down for many, many hours planning what our district will look like. I can't thank you enough for that opportunity. Thank you for being a part of what we have here. Really appreciate it.
I won't cry. I really appreciate Mayor Hillock's comments. It was a very difficult time 3.5 years ago. And I'm not a contentious person. I don't like contention. And I just don't. And so it was a very difficult time during those first 6 months as we looked and we thought about who we needed to hire for our superintendent. But I remember that one day that you were either the second or the third interviewee. And I didn't even want to interview anyone after that because I knew from that point forward that it was it, that you were the person. And so I truly appreciate everything you've done for us. Very few people realize what we put at risk. My wife working for the district meant that she could have lost her job, in my opinion, because she supported me. And the fact that you won, or we won, and that we were able to bring and make these changes has been a tremendous, tremendous thing in my personal life. So we appreciate you very much. Thank you, Dr. Strike.
Dr. Strike, I appreciate the last 3 years. We've had many conversations, long, lengthy, heartfelt. So for my growth as a board member, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm not going to go too long because there's 4 others down here and one's probably going to take longer than the other. So I'll skip a little bit of my time and appreciate it very much, Dr. Strike.
You're conceding your time?
No, yeah, Jason is, I'm not. I'll second everything. I think it was very interesting when you came on board because we all thought, well, it's going to take 3 or 4 years before we really get anything accomplished. And within 6 months, we were like, wait a minute, what's happening? Everything was changing. The culture was the biggest thing that was just really impressive, how fast you moved the dial. And I think similar to Mayor Hillock, well, Mr. Gallagher, anytime we watched Lowell speak, you were enthralled with whatever he had to say. It could have been, the sky is blue, and you're like, oh my gosh, really? He always captured your attention. And it was just really great to have him come in with all the knowledge, the experience, in a time that we really needed that and the direction. So greatly appreciate you, and you're going to be very missed.
Again, I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done for this district. Coming onto the board soon after you got brought in as superintendent, just really, it was easy to see that transition had started, and it was really just see how we could best support you in that. Just some of the things that I do like that you brought is that you mentioned it in your comments was just that mediocrity is no longer accepted. It's one of the reasons why I know I got involved and why each one of us got involved. It's a, put up or shut up type of attitude, and you definitely live that. I remember from early on and you talking about the changes that were occurring, you said something to the effect of that when you look around, there are a lot of good people that are kind of frustrated at the mediocrity that's accepted, and that in itself brings the people that want to excel down. And then you said one of your jobs was to help those people that wanted a level of comfort to find that level of comfort somewhere else. And I think that to me was one of the things that really started to change that culture and change that attitude, and that tone at the top certainly changed, and I greatly appreciate that.
Okay, I'll try not to cry, I promise. I know there was a lot of personal reasons when we started this, and 3.5 years ago was very scary. It was, we had no direction. And I remember one of the first things that we asked you, even in the interview, was we need a plan. We need somewhere to go. We don't know where we're going. And we know we needed someone that could do that. And just like they said, I think we were all kind of done interviewing after we talked with you. You amazed all of us. And the year I got to be president, I learned a lot from you. Really enjoyed our conversations at the time. And what you've done is beyond amazing. We went, like they said, it's 6 months. We were all thinking it was going to take years before we could see a true turnaround. But I don't know how you did it. I really don't. But like she said, people just, they gravitated towards you. And the positivity that you just gave out to everyone. You made everyone feel welcome. You made everyone feel far better than they were. My daughter came to me the first year I was on the board and said, yeah, everybody in the district thought LE stood for something very negative. And by the time she graduated, there was already such a difference that she was very proud to be from Little Elm. And, you know, my kids are graduating. You know, I got 3 of them now that have graduated, and they're proud of it. I've got 1 more going, and I just want to say thank you. And we never expected that we could get what we got. And you were a blessing in disguise. So thank you. And like she said, you will be very, very missed.
My comments are actually kind of my first interactions on a personal level with Dr. Strike. When I was considering running, he was very, very open to being willing to sit down and talk with me. I had, you know, I had been coming to board meetings and tried to get as involved and as informed as I possibly could. And I really don't think that I went into, the first time I sat down with him, I don't think I went in uninformed. There was some information that I had still yet to learn, I realize that, but I do appreciate the fact that he was willing to sit down and listen to what some of my ideas and goals and some of the things that I'd like to see brought to the board. So much so that after I was only on just for a couple of months, he was willing to, you know, start helping me formulate and work with some of the plans that I was wanting to work with. And so in willing to bring him to the board. So not only was he willing to work so much with the district and the staff and everything, but some of the different ideas that we could bring to it as board members. You know, there were a couple ideas that I came to him and he basically didn't respond, which is my way of knowing that it probably wasn't a very good idea. And other ones, he basically said, yeah, run with it. So I do appreciate that, the willingness to sit down and listen and, you know, just let me get my ideas out there and hear basically what was going on in the district and get me informed before I even came on the board. That to me said a whole lot. There are other people that I have met through being a trustee that did not have that experience with their superintendents, and they basically went in with no information whatsoever. So luckily, he was willing to, and I'm sure would probably happen with David and Jason also, brought in, when they came in, they were informed and armed and ready to start doing work, instead of, as a lot of the more experienced board members will say, you come in and you basically spend the first 6 months to a year trying to figure out what in the world's going on. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and everything you've done for the district.
At this time, we will move on to citizen input. Is there any, Ms. Padilla? No? All right, next up, reports of the superintendent.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Cindy Micka to come up, and she'll review the performance dashboard that we have on our website.
Thank you, President Myers, board members, Mr. Gallagher. Are you able to see on your screens? Okay. In October's board meeting, I shared with you the enrollment dashboard and let you know that we would be working on the performance dashboard over the next month. And so I'm pleased to say that right after the November board meeting, we released the performance dashboard with the new information on the Texas Academic Performance Report. So when you go to our district, you'll notice the second area now is the demographic and performance dashboards. We have also, on the front page, put it on a button at the bottom in the gold bar. So when you come to the dashboard, you'll see the enrollment dashboard that we discussed before, but then we also have the performance dashboard starting with our staff. And so some of the information that you will be able to see is a graphic representation of the composition of our staff. So we have approximately 830 staff members, and then we have the interactive tables showing what the different makeups are as you go through the staff by job type. So we have 69% of our employees are professional staff, 8% are professional aides, and 23% are auxiliary staff. Then we also have different tables that we've created. And so as you click on each of these tabs, you'll see different makeups of our staff and comparison to the state, how we rank in percentage. We have our average salaries by years of experience and our average salaries by profession type. And then what is the makeup of our teachers by ethnicity? And then our gender and the highest degrees held, our years of experience of teachers, and then we have our average years of experience in the teaching and also in the district. And then what is our turnover rate of teachers compared to the state? And then our number of teachers per student and our average class size at both the elementary levels. And as far as Texas is concerned, 6th grade is linked with the elementary. That's how the TAPER report is written. And then our average class size, 7th through 12th grade. And so just a quick view of our staff page. Then we built our performance based on our Texas Academic Performance Report. And next month, I have the honor of doing the public hearing. And so we will be going through the data in depth. But as you all know, the Texas Academic Performance Report, it's just numbers. And it's sometimes hard to understand what those numbers mean. And so when we went out looking for how do we build a dashboard and how do we turn it into graphics that are easier to understand than just plain data, we came across this product, the infogram that we started working with. And so you'll see on the dashboard, we've already prepared it. We have tables and graphs that will give you a snapshot by ethnicity and special populations. By grade, and you can either toggle through and go straight to the grade that you're interested in, or you can slide through each of the grades, and as you slide through the grades, if they took a subject, that graph will appear. And it's interactive because as you hover over the different areas of the graphic, it will come up with the specific information to that part of the graph. And so we have the STAR reports for 3rd through 8th grade, and then we also have the 3-year data trend. And once again, you can go to the different areas here by pull down, or you can scroll through to see what our trends are over the past few years. One thing I do want to point out with math is that you'll notice there's nothing in 2015. That is not a mistake. Remember, that is the year that the state did not give us results in math because we switched to new TEKS and a new test. And so even though we took the test, the results weren't reported that year. Following that, we have our EOC, and this one, because we just have the 5 exams, we put them all on one graph. I'm not going to switch through the tables, and we reported it by ethnicity and special populations, as well as our 3-year trends. We have our STAR summed across all grade levels, and we switched from level 1, level 2, level 3 last year to MET standard approaches, which is a passing standard, post-secondary meets, and then advanced masters, which used to be level 3. And so as you tab through the different areas, we have shown the data compared to the state, the district, and then the different ethnicity and population groups. We've also done that across the 3-year trend for you, showing you this all subjects and then the different subjects split out, as well as showing you student progress. Remember, student progress is all about index 2. And do our students make 1 year's progress or exceed it? And so the first tab is met or exceeded, and the second tab are those students that have exceeded. And we've compared it to the state as well as the district, and then across the different ethnicity and special population groups. Showing you also that progress in the 3-year trend, mets or exceeded, as well as exceeded alone. And then this one is something that's reported on the taper for those students that did not pass in the previous year on a STAR exam. How did those students do in the next year? Student Success Initiative at grade 5th and 8th grade with reading and math. And those are the students that have to pass STAR in order to be promoted to the next grade level. And so we have the 5th grade reading and math, and then another tab for the 8th grade reading and math. And then we have our ELL STAR performance, our English language learners. How many of them were at, approaches, or above? And then once again, you can toggle through the different areas all the way to meets or above, masters, met or exceeded progress, and exceeded progress. And then we have our STAR participation. So what % of our students participated in the STAR test? Because there's so much information, we put a second tab for student performance, and this deals with stuff outside of the STAR test. So how are we rated outside the STAR test? We're rated with our attendance rate, and so we put the 2014-15 and 2015-16 attendance rates. What is our annual dropout rate? Our graduation longitudinal rate. And this year, for the first time, we have a 6-year graduation longitudinal rate that you wouldn't have seen in previous years. So we're showing you the 4-year rate for those that graduated into 2016. The 5-year rate would have been those that didn't graduate with their class of 2015. How did they do in 5 years? Did they graduate? And then our 6-year were those that did not graduate with 2014. How many total graduated within 6 years? On here, you'll see that the state gives us how many graduated with that class, how many received their GED, how many are still in high school, and how many dropped out. And so for each of these different categories, we'll see the data that the state has provided. And then the high school plan. This one's a hard one to understand because we're looking at so many different plans from last year. We're looking at the recommended high school plan, the distinguished academic plan, but then we also gave students the opportunity to graduate under the new graduation plan of the foundation and the foundation with endorsements. And so we're showing all of that here for you. How many of our students took advanced course dual credit courses, completed those? And the state breaks it out into just 11th and 12th graders, and then also anyone that's a freshman through 12th grade. This data here, I've tried to note if it wasn't current year data, because some of the data that the state uses is from 2 years back or 3 years back. And so on the graphs, I'll have said what year that data is from, what graduating class. College-ready graduates. So how many of our graduates are determined to be college-ready? This is based on the TSI, SAT, ACT, and advanced level 3 of the STAR test. So English, language arts, math, how many for both subjects and how many for either subject. We've shown the state, the district, and then the different population groups. College and career-ready graduates. There's several different factors there, such as industry certifications go into play there, military careers, et cetera. CTE coherent sequences compared to the state, and that's the gold shows 2015-16, blue shows 2014-15. AP results participation. So how many of our students participated in an AP exam, broken down by ethnicity and population, and then the trend from 2015 to 2016 in each of those subject areas. We also show the AP results at or above criterion. So the percent of students that scored a 3, 4, or 5, which is a 3 beginning last year was at criterion. And then the AP results from 2015 to 2016. So the data here is 2 years old. We'll report 2017 data next year when the taper results come out. The SAT results for the class of 2016 for all subjects, English, language arts, and writing, and mathematics, comparing it to the state, the district, and then our different ethnicities. And then the ACT results for the class of 2016, also reported in the same format in a tabular feature. So we are so excited to show this to you. Here is when I mentioned before on the gold bar, our button for the dashboard. So there's several ways that you can find it. We will be going over the individual data in depth at the public hearing for the annual performance report. But we wanted to go ahead and release this since the Texas Academic Performance Report had been released, and get our dashboard up and ready for you and the public to view.
And Dr. Micka, did you explain how this is updated, how that works?
Sure. So the product that we purchased, if I create the data in a Google Drive, a spreadsheet, if I go in and change one number, it will change on our website automatically. So every 30 seconds, the website goes out looking for changes in the spreadsheets that I am keeping in the Google Drive. And so when I keep those updated, it will update on here. So it's really great. It's a great process. We're going to be able to use this for many different areas of the district. In fact, I have a meeting with Rod Reeves tomorrow to teach him how to use the product. And we'll be creating, we're going to be creating a section on there. Mr. Weiss with the finance office has been part of our first initial training, and so we're looking at different ways to use this. We've kind of, Casey Bain has really helped me with the development of the website piece, but I'll put it on there and I'll make the graph, and then she'll tweak it, and with our representative over in Denmark or Norway, wherever she is. And so sometimes we have really early mornings or really late nights working with our representative there, but it's a great product. I think that when you asked us to create a dashboard, we were struggling with how do you do that in the graphics form if we're not a big district with someone that knows how to do that. And so we went out and we found the product, and I think it's able to do what we want it to do. And I hope that you like what we've put together for you, and welcome to take any feedback on the dashboard.
So, yeah.
I was just going to say it's better than Plano.
Yeah. First, I want to say thank you for the dashboard, because I know I was nagging you guys about updating and creating a website that would present the transparency that we needed. And I nagged you guys for a while about making sure we have the data out there. So I want to say thank you for putting this out there, because this was an important piece of what we talked about, that transparency. We talked about allowing the people in the community to understand what was going on and presenting that information in a consumable manner. So I want to say thank you. About some of the numbers, are we going to go over there next month? You said you're going to go over some of the numbers and go in detail about that, because I got a whole bunch of questions till then.
Either way, we do have.
Okay.
Next month, I do have I'll have a public hearing before the board meeting, because I have to do our annual report that I do each year, and so it will be this exact data that we're going over. It's just going to be in the formal report.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, like I said, once again, I just want to thank you, because when we first started that, and Ms. Leanne Harding know how I was about this whole website thing, and it pushed you guys pretty hard about making sure we create a website that gets that out to the community. So thank you very much.
I just have a comment. I think this is awesome. You know, when people move into the area, the first website they turn to is that School Digger website, which is just annoying as heck. So the fact that now the community will have something to point these new residents to is going to be the greatest thing ever, right? It's all here. It's the truth.
The truth.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to ask Dr. Mick to stay up there. We wanted to provide an update on we're on the waiting list for the ROTC program, and we've had some conversations about that. So I wanted to ask Dr. Mick or I have asked Dr. Mick to do just an update on where we are in that process and some of the options that we have in front of us.
Okay, so today I'm going to be giving you the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps update. We started this process several years ago. In fact, I think 3.5 years ago when some of you first came on the board and we were looking at it. And as Dr. Streich knows, it's something that we're all passionate still about the ROTC program. In fact, I have a niece that's going through the ROTC program and is applying to A&M to join the Corps there. So we know the value of it, not just for military service, but also for the leadership skills that an ROTC program can provide to our students. In fact, with the last update to the high school, we purposefully built rooms that would allow us to eventually have an ROTC program. So just kind of review a timeline. In February 22nd, 2016, I actually submitted the application for the establishment of an Air Force Junior ROTC unit. In September 24th last year, we had our site visit with Colonel Gesh, and he met with Daniel Ross and I, Renee Pentecost, and Paul Thompson from Huckabee, because we didn't have the building built at that time. All we had were plans. And so we had to be able to prove that we had the facilities, we would be able to have the rifle storage, the standard storage, et cetera, and that we would have the drill area if we were granted a unit. In July 2017, a list of unit applicants was submitted to the Office of the Secretary of Defense for ranking. And then from there, the Secretary of Defense then ranks those in order of who would be given a unit first, second, third, et cetera, across the United States, depending upon the budget. Okay, so we know that we're delayed in this area. I've called today, left several messages, but because we don't have the budget that was signed in September, this process hasn't happened yet. And so we're still waiting to see where we fall on that list of rankings. So last year, after we met with the Lieutenant Gesh, he told us about the National Defense Cadet Corps and that it was an option for districts or campuses that were waiting for a junior ROTC unit. And so we looked at this last year and we determined that at that time, we didn't have it in our budget to put into place this year. And I wanted to review those costs to you, what the startup costs would be to put in an NDCC unit. For salaries, when you have a junior ROTC unit, you pay 50% of the salary and the military pays 50% of the salary, and then you get the other items provided. And so you are providing 50% of the salary, and then you're providing the space and the time and the buses, field trips, et cetera. And so there are some costs, but not as costly as it is to put in an NDCC unit where you are paying for 100% of the cost of operating the unit. The salaries would be approximately $155,000 for the first year. We have to have a commissioned officer and a non-commissioned officer. And then the non-salary related costs to start up a unit are approximately $154,000, and this is for the 100 cadets that we have to maintain. These numbers I got from Denton and Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, as well as I forgot the third district, sorry. I don't want to misspeak. The total then for the first year would be approximately $309,000. That is going to change depending upon what rank of an officer you get. So what happens is after you put forth the application, and this would happen with the junior ROTC as well as with the NDCC. Once you get accepted as a new unit, you would put forward an application with the Air Force, and they look for retired officers who are interested in teaching. They actually apply for that. And so what they do is they send you, they say they kind of do a pool. We've looked through the applicants that have applied for your area. These are your 3 that you can interview. You interview them, and so it's based upon the rank of the officers that they give you drives that salary cost. This is based on a lieutenant colonel's salary and then the non-commissioned officer's salary. Then the non-salary costs are the uniforms, the standards, the rifles, the field trips, the competitions that you do, and several other things. And so that's the first year. Second year, you don't have as many startup costs in the non-salary related, so you'll see that those drop down from $154,000 to approximately $50,000. You're not buying 100 pairs of pants and 100 shirts. Now you're maybe buying 20 because you're buying replacements. And then you also have, they actually put in their altering fees. So in our area, what does it cost to alter a uniform, to hem it, to let it out or take it in of an existing uniform that you have? So we even put those in. How much does it cost for a mileage on the average to go to a competition if you're going to go to 3 competitions in the fall? And those type of things. So that's what we're looking at with non-salary related costs. That's why it goes down drastically, because you're not buying 100 of everything your first year. Looking at estimated costs for the second year to be $209,000. Third year, fourth year, fifth year, I just said third year here, but it goes out, you're dropping down to about $35,000. This is maintaining 100 cadets. If you increased your cadets, you would have to bring on another salaried officer. And so that fluctuates. So from year 3 to 5, keeping 100 cadets, we're at $198,000 as operational cost. This is our best estimates based on the areas, schools around us. And what they're doing. But like I said, last year at this point, when we had the extra FTEs that we needed, we didn't feel like we had the upfront money to put in the unit. And so I wanted to bring that back up because I know it's been requested. But the cost of putting in an NDCC is something that we have to weigh against the growth of the district and the number of FTEs that we're also needing to hire to meet those growth needs.
Any other questions? So this is my baby. Where do you see us with regard to maybe starting this next year as a possibility?
I think that right now we're just beginning the budget process with Mr. Anderson. I don't know that if we take that $309,000 and we say, how many teachers is that? That's a lot of teachers. that we could pay for the startup of the NDCC. So do we have the money with the growth that we need and the teachers that we have to hire for the foundation program? Do we have any money left over to fund the NDCC in the first year? Also, to start it next year, we would almost have to hire our officer now, so that they would be on board to start our startup, because we don't have the curriculum, we don't have the uniforms, we haven't purchased anything, and so if you're asking for my opinion, and I'll let Mr. Gallagher speak, to start it up for next year, we would have pretty much already have to have applied. We haven't applied for the NDCC yet, knowing about the cost commitment we're going into for the next 3 to 5 years, and can we afford it? So.
I guess a couple of things. I was kind of under the impression, I know speaking to some of my peers, we were kind of under the impression that this program was going to be set to start this year. Are we ever going to be ready for 309,000? Maybe not, but I think this is a very important, to complement what we're already doing with everything else that we've done in the school. And there's so many kids that are not programmed to go to school. We've got to find alternatives for them that give them great careers, that could provide for their families. I feel strongly about this enough to request that we start it as soon as possible, but obviously we need to find out if we can or not.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll say, and this is why, we're on the waiting list, and I know when I came in last year, this was one of the very first things we looked at, and sitting in those meetings with Ross and Cindy and again, looking at where we are financially, right now, that's what we have to talk about as a board. That's what we have to look at. I'm in agreement. I think, having an ROTC program is definitely where we want to be. We want that program because we know it offers students an opportunity. And again, you're correct on the careers, the benefit for the kids. Dr. Mika mentioned the leadership. There's no question. And, the 2 high schools that I taught at years ago, we had ROTC, and there really is a benefit to offering it for our students. But what we need to do as a board, we want to sit down and really look at, do we wait on, and again, we don't know where we are on that list, and we don't know when that's going to come out. Do we wait on that, or do we invest? And we're looking at roughly $700,000 over the next 3 years, which is and again, I'll turn to Grant. He's just giving me that look when I say $700,000. I know what that look is. It's a significant amount of money, and I think that's where you as the board need to determine, do we invest that amount of money? When you start thinking about and that's what Dr. Strike has always said. Again, I'm going to refer to him, he's here. As a district, money does impact, and obviously it impacts our kids, it impacts our district. We don't have unlimited funds, and this would be one where we would have to decide if we're going to invest here, where's it going to come from? It's going to come from somewhere, and that's where I think we need to sit down and talk about, where do we pull that $700,000 over the next 3 years? We're going to have to pull it from somewhere. And what I worry about is, and I know y'all would worry too, we don't want to pull it from something that's going to impact other students and other programs. So I think what I would say is maybe what we do is and again, President Myers, you can add to this, but maybe have some further discussions about this, just because of the cost. I think we're all in agreement. We want an ROTC program. We've demonstrated that with a commitment to build that, the rooms and the storage rooms. We're ready for it. We just need to move up on that waiting list. So again, I think that's just, we need to have some more discussions because it really does come down to the money. And, you know, I wish I could say we have an extra $700,000 sitting around, but we don't. We'll have to pull it from somewhere.
And Dr. Mick, I do have a quick question. I know the cost and everything you have on this slide here is for the NDCC. Is there an estimated startup for the JROTC if and when that one starts?
It would be 50% of the salaries.
Okay.
And just the salaries. They cover the...
To my understanding right now. But you have to understand that there's a lot of change going on with the budgets and with the different programs. So we might have big changes coming in, you know. One of the areas that we're watching closely is federal funding. We get so much money for Title II Part A, and we don't know that that's going to exist next year. And so as the budget's going through the cycles, the different rules are coming down for different programs that have always been funded by the federal government. And so I don't want to speak to what an ROTC program would cost, but it is substantially less than this. So it would be, you know, in the first year, $70,000, $80,000 roughly.
And the when the new roster comes out that you mentioned, I guess, on the previous slide, when that does come out and we get and we're on that list, then the call at that point in time could be in 2 days, it could be in 10 years.
Correct. We know that there have been, we know that we live in a tight region, meaning that you can turn around and so many districts have a junior ROTC program. If we were in another region of the U.S., we would actually be moved to the top of the list if our name came up, because they don't have junior ROTC programs in that state, representative of the student population. And that's one of the things that Colonel Gesh spent a lot of time explaining to Ms. Pentecost, Daniel Ross, and I when he met with us. He also said that if our name, let's say that someone's number 1, 2, 3, and we're number 4 on the list, and it all depends upon how we did in that interview and our facilities, and could we provide the type of learning environment that the junior ROTC program wants and demands. We actually, in a day's time with Huckabee, made changes to our architectural drawings to make ourselves more favorable and go up in the rankings. And so we were able to do that since we hadn't started the build yet. But what Colonel Gesh said is that if you get the call, you have to be able to implement immediately and to be able to hire immediately and show that you have that cash flow to put in the program. It says that sometimes the call might come in October or November because they've gotten more money and they want you to start it immediately. And so he said that sometimes the person 1, 2, 3 on the list can't do it because they don't have the funds to be able to say, okay, we have, you know, $80,000, let's hire our 2 officers and let's run with it. We have the space, let's go. And so that was one of the questions that he asked us, and we said that we knew how committed our board was, that if our name did get called, even if it was in the middle of the year or in April, you know, we would be able to jump and implement immediately. Because that's how committed we are to this program. And I think we showed it in our interview with the Air Force, because we had our architect there. We were willing to make changes to the drawings. And so it's a guessing game. You know, when that list comes out, and I'll keep calling. They're not quick to respond. So,
it's the government.
But you know, I made phone calls today, left messages, and so we will keep up on it. I just don't know from talking to one of the lieutenant colonels at a neighboring district, without the budget being finalized at the federal level, it's hard for us to say what any of the other offices are going to be able to afford this year.
Yeah. And then one final question. If we were to move forward with the NDCC and we do get the call from the Air Force for the JROTC, are then we stuck then basically with 4 officers, or do the NDCC officers basically transfer over?
They will transfer over because they are, the only way for us to have an NDCC officer is if it's through the Air Force.
Okay.
Yes. It's basically an Air Force ROTC program that a district pays 100% of.
Yeah.
And so it's
Waiting
still the
for the
same
official call.
curriculum.
Yeah.
The curriculum that we would use for junior ROTC is the exact same curriculum and provided for free by the Air Force to NDCC schools. The other thing that happens, if you are on the list and you are an NDCC, then it just rolls over automatically, and so they would pick up at that time your salary costs. Unfortunately, you're not going to get paid
Anything
back
Yeah.
for anything that you've put into it, but they would pick up immediately where you left off.
Okay, you just answered my question. I was going to ask if there's some way, like in the first 12 months, if there's a reimbursement policy for the non-salary costs.
One of the things I wanted to clarify on you said that it's December of 2018 that we would get the list. And so
I'm sorry, December 2017. My
okay, so
mistake.
that's right now.
Yes,
okay.
and I'll fix that before it gets posted anywhere.
All right, so that's what I wanted to make sure of.
Sorry, my mistake.
Okay, so technically that phone call could come today, or tomorrow, or between tomorrow and the next.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing is once we have that list of rankings, we'll update you again of where we fall on that list. I don't know how many people applied this year, how many are on, where they are, and some people have withdrawn or don't want to do it anymore. So it's a very flexible list from what Colonel Gesh had told us.
So I did have a question. So we did the Air Force, and I know the Army has us. Do we do both of them, one of them, or how does that work?
We didn't, because what we've done is not everyone has an application open. And so when we applied, the Air Force was the only one that had an opening that they were taking applicants. And that's really important to note, is that it's hard to, there was when we first started looking at it, none of the
branches,
military services had an application out. So the Air Force did have an opening. I'm not going to tell you that I go all the time and look, but I'll run through all the different services every once in a while and see, does anyone have an application out? And so I'll make sure that I do that again and see if any of the other branches have an application open.
Thank you, Dr. Mika. And if you need us to make any phone calls, we'll be glad to make some calls.
Oh, yeah. Great. Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate with Mr. Gallagher said that we are committed to having a junior ROTC unit. It's just weighing the costs and doing what the board and wishes within our financial limits. But like I stated at the beginning, military service has always been very important and dear to my heart personally. And I would love nothing more than to see a program. I think that we, built the rooms for it. We showed it when we added on to the high school. That was one of the things that we weren't going to let go, even though after meeting with Colonel Gesh, we knew it would possibly be a longer wait. We wanted to have the facilities so that as soon as the call came, we would be able to step up.
Thank you, Dr. Mika. I think the other part, just to go back to Mr. Gallagher, obviously we're in a growth district, so to take away teachers would be difficult. I think understanding, what our growth looks like, maybe looking at the demographics again as we move into the spring to really see, where we're at would help make some of that decision. The other question I had too is this, and I'm certain of the answer is no, but is there an opportunity for partnership on this type of situation with Denton?
No, because I even looked into that. They do not let you cross districts because Louisville has the Navy, Denton has the Air Force, other areas have the Marines and the Army. I asked, can we send students in a bus to another district to participate? And that is not allowed in the current regulations. You have to serve within the district.
Okay.
You cannot accept outside students.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Mika.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mika. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Ross Roberts up, our Deputy Superintendent, to discuss our how we name our facilities. And obviously with the bond passing, this is something we wanted to bring to the board just to let you know and remind you about what our policy is. So
yeah, thank you, Mr. Gallagher. President Myers, Board of Trustees, good evening. And like Mr. Gallagher said, it's a great timing that we bring this to your attention and bring you up to speed on our naming facilities and the board policy that we have in place because of the passing of the bond. You have inquired about naming facilities a couple of times, and so we wanted to bring that to you this evening. I want to take just a couple of minutes to refer to your board packet. You'll see that we located our CW local board policy, and I want to take just a couple of minutes to go through the qualifications that you see there in naming a facility. And it basically talks about the board may name a district facility, one, to reflect the name of the residential community or communities the facility serves. Second qualification is after a local geographic area or feature, after a local municipality. And the third qualifying factor is after an individual who has made a significant contribution to the field of education or to society as a whole, and whose name lends prestige and status to an institution of learning. If a facility is to be named after an individual, written permission from that person or his or her estate must be received. So that is, like Mr. Gallagher said, we do have board policy in place, and I know that the board is interested. And so at that time, just bringing you up to speed, any feedback that you guys would like to give to us and direction on that to take this further. At this time you can, or you can get in touch with me at any time to send me over your thoughts or anything else that you want us to look into as a district.
The one item that I wanted to get a little more clarity on is just what's been done in the past. You know, I know obviously we've got Brent was named after a superintendent. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe I don't know what type of transactional information we still have or that we can look back on to see, you know, how that was, how we came up with that as a district. Also, I think Chavez, Powell. Okay. You know, I'd like to get a little more history if possible. You bet. Just to see what they've done in the past, if they surveyed the community, if the board just decided, you know.
Well, I can tell you when we named Prestwick, there was actually a committee that was gotten together, mm-hmm. and they brought forth a couple of different names. But the committee basically chose a name, and then the board.
And recommended it mm-hmm. to the board.
Yeah.
Okay, we sure can do that. Look at some historical facts and kind of dig around and see what took place, the process at the time, and then some committees as well.
Okay.
And I will tell you, President Myers, a lot of districts, when they do, a lot of districts that are growing where they're adding schools all the time, sometimes what they do is they do put out, kind of open it up to the community for just ideas and some kind of survey where they can email or enter it somewhere, and then the board sometimes does put together a committee and they bring all those names forward. And but the way the board policy is written now is really the authority to name buildings. It's up to the board.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions from the board on this item?
Just want to make sure this goes to like athletic complexes.
Well, and that was going to be my next comment. Yeah. So yeah, I think any facility, I think right now, obviously we'll have some new facilities coming online the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. I think the immediate one was the stadium. Mm-hmm. And I think there's been one or two at least board members that wanted to rename the Little Elm it's called 4 different things. Yeah, so
depending on which
Little
application
Elm
you look
field, at. LEAC. Yeah, so I think, you know.
Well, and what you'll see sometimes too in naming a facility, like a football stadium, you'll have a name for the stadium.
Right.
And then you'll have a name for the field. And you'll have a name for the field house. And so
Right.
Anyway, it's just another example, but like Mr. Gallagher said, it's up to the board and what you want to do.
Okay.
So any further questions or information, you can email Mr. Gallagher or myself directly, and we'll do what we need to do to gather that information.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Here. All right, next I'd like to invite Rod Reeves up, our Executive Director for Operations, to discuss electric vehicle charging stations. This is timely as I just got rid of my Toyota Prius and I bought a Dodge Charger with a huge V8, and I went from 50 miles a gallon down to about 12.
Well, maybe we'll change your mind and go back to that. So, well, thank you so much, board members, President Myers and Superintendent Gallagher. Just give a quick update on electric vehicle charging stations within Little Elm ISD. Sometimes you'll see EV as an abbreviation, and so that's what that means. So just to give a quick overview, I visited the North Central Texas Council of Governments past November with some representatives from the town of Little Elm. They're looking into this as well with Mr. Doug Peach and Chad Hyde with their Parks and Rec service. And so interesting reasons why they're looking at, extending EV or electric vehicle charging stations throughout North Texas is because if you notice our ozone levels within North Texas, EPA has said that they're not very good. And so it is getting better, but they think that more green type alternative fuel systems would help get that levels down. Also, they show some benefits for infrastructure is to facilitate increased deployment of EVs to help get those EPA levels, those air quality levels down. Also to capture green market shares. A lot of times there's federal resources. I'll show you some information on some grants, incentives to try to get that to North Texas. Also to attract and retain employees. Now we have a survey we'll show later about, some of our employees or students and show you sort of a graph of how many people within the district are looking at that. But also they talk about the younger generations looking at some alternative fuels too for that. So this just shows some regional infrastructure available throughout the area, North Texas. And North Texas Council of Governments, I'm not sure if you all know what that is, but it's represents 16 counties within North Texas. And it's sort of a way that they can kind of pull people together and share resources, and so to help each other out. And so that's kind of what that system does, or that government entity does. And so this just shows that there are a lot of infrastructures available within North Texas. The Denton County, Tarrant County, Dallas County, a little bit in Collin and Rockwell. This just shows kind of the corridors that the state's looking at doing, especially those North Texas, but they're trying to extend that out all the way to El Paso, also down south and to the east as well. And so this, they're just trying to get more and more. If you look on the notes, it talks about to be signage ready to say, if you see on a highway, there's some charging stations down the road. You have to have them within 50 miles within each other. And so there's certain criteria that's listed for that. If you look at some different types, typically there's just three basic types. L1 or level, there are different levels. So you say level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is just for residential, and it's like 1.5 kV. It's like your 120 volts you can plug it into for that. Typically you won't see those as connected to the internet at all, but you could do that. L2 is what you call, level 2 is commercial. It's a little bit higher, KW 7.2. You can use 208, 240. You get about 25 miles per hour charging versus your residential is about 4 miles per hour of charging for that. This is the most common that you'll see because of the price point. I'll show you that here in just a second. And so it's a dual charging station. L3, level 3 is your fast DC. If you notice, the KW went up to 50. And so these things, you get 200 miles per hour of charging, which is great. But what you need to look at is this amount of electricity that you use could push you into a higher demand cycle, which means you could be paying double your price point for electricity. So if you did choose to go with this, we really need to look at our usage for that, because you could end up paying a lot more for that. If we look at cost, that residential is about $1,500 for that, so it's very affordable if you have that. Level 2 is about $8,000. Now these costs, I will say, it's only for the unit. That does not count the cost of the infrastructure. So it depends on where you're getting the electricity from and where you're bringing it to. So it could be $10,000 or it could be $300,000 depending upon the location. So you have to add that to all of this. If you look at your L3, level 3, you're looking at about $40,000 just for that unit. For that, so you can see the difference in price between about $8,000 to almost $40,000 just for that. Free. Now he's winking because my mom always said you don't get anything ever for free. There's always a catch. And so there is a company out there that's called Revitalize Charging Solutions. And what they do is they give you the charging station. They do the L2 because the L2 is less expensive. They can't afford the L3. They don't get the payback on it. You get about, the cost is nothing. The maintenance cost and setup fee is nothing. You get 2 connectors. They get 10% of advertisements. That's how they make their money. They advertise on it. And some of their advertisements are like McDonald's and different types of things that are locally, you know, they have a business locally, so we could use it. However, they have not been in business very long, and so we would not own the system. And so if they did go out of business, then they would probably take it with them. So something could happen on that. But there is lower cost. So different providers, I think Mr. Blackwood said that there's different, he may have a vendor too, but there's different ones. You have Siemens and ChargePoint Premier Partners. There's several ones out there that are very similar that we can use. And so it's readily available. Almost every car brand, you know, has an electric car. So, Mr. Gallagher, you can probably go find one and get another one if you want for that. So, you can do that. So, for that. Every one of them have a mobile app too, and the mobile app is there to, you know, you can have your RFID card to where you can pay for the electricity. You can find out the locations of them. You can find out, they can give you reminders on your apps of you're almost out of electricity, you need to go charge it. And so almost everyone has this type of application for people to use on their cell phones. It could be for a smartphone or a Samsung, I think, so. That we can do. So there's some available incentives also, up to about $7,500 for plug-in electric drive motor vehicles tax credit. The infrastructure, it does say that there are some programs out there that might help provide payment back on the cost of that. However, working with the town of Little Elm, some of those monies are not available or they've already been spent. And so if the board would allow us to work more closely with them, we can maybe have a joint venture to see if we can do some things with them to share cost. There's also the North Central Texas Council of Governments also will help us provide letters of support, help us fill those gaps within those corridors that they talked about. Also have different locations to make sure that we don't duplicate. If the town's doing something somewhere and we have something real close, maybe we can just do one essentially the location. This was a survey, and I appreciate Dr. Tipton and Ms. Cecilia Jones on working on this survey. We did have a 5-question survey about electric vehicle, the interest to having these charging stations. There was a lot of different responses, wouldn't you say, Ms. Jones, on that? And some were very heated. It was it's a reading if you want to read it. And so, but there's about 95% of them said that they don't have any electric vehicles at all, and there were about 4.5% that said they did. And so that just kind of gives you an idea of the interest level of the district, and so we at least wanted to give you that information. So it was very quick, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll say happy holidays too.
Any questions from the board?
So with your meetings with the town, where we had talked about previously grants, are there any, have we explored any grant options in regards to this? Because I know working with the town, I know Blaze and Associates does a lot of grant writing, so I'm just curious if we've explored any grants in this proposals.
They have looked at the proposals for the cost of having someone do the grants, and that was pretty expensive. And so we thought we might work directly with the COG to see if we can reduce that cost and get our own grant funding for that. So I haven't explored it any further since our last meeting. And so what I'll do is I'll get with them and try to get some information back to you.
So I don't know, I have a hard time looking at this, wondering what the return on investment now, if we're working in partnership with the town of Little Elm, if we were to install these, would we go beyond the town of Little Elm? Because I would find it difficult to install these, especially with the survey results, just in the one little area and neglect the outside area. Did we survey the staff?
This survey we did survey the staff. I think the main respondents were those of students that we had. Was it staff that we did? And Ms. Jones, you wanted to speak to that?
It was about looking at the numbers, and I can share the survey results with you so you can look at them deeper. But a lot of them were community and staff members.
Community and staff.
Very little students that participated, but it was set up for everybody.
Okay. As I just find it would be very difficult for us to put it at one campus without putting it at the rest of them.
Every campus.
And so that, to me, it would be a huge.
We polled them and asked them which campus they want to see it at, and the high school was #1.
Yeah. Well, that's the only one I could see would be, because that's where the students drive, but if we were to do it, who's going to really benefit more would be, to me, in my opinion, would be staff, because they would be the ones more likely to drive an electric car. And so that's just, I'm real hesitant on it, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. I mean, if we're partnering and doing things to kind of work as a group, I'm definitely open to that, but this is just.
I'm of the same opinion. I think it's a lot of money where we need, especially in our district, we need that money to go elsewhere right now, but.
No, I agree. The whole thought process in this was to see what was out there available from a grant perspective. If we can do it at very minimal cost, great. But to the point earlier when we were talking about JROTC, is that if it's going to take away that much money,
Yeah.
I understand that. This is very good and informational. And like I said, I'd like to see maybe some joint projects do this, to their point, maybe joint exploration projects with the town. If we can share facilities, do things with them, great. You know, I do think probably the #1 site is the high school. And I don't think just because we can't do them at all of the sites doesn't mean we can't do them at some particular sites. Once again, pending funding, et cetera.
Right.
I think we could work to be sponsors and spots, with the town to work through that.
And just to go back, I mean, these costs are only for the units.
Right. That's correct.
Not for the routing of electricity.
That's correct.
And then probably zero control if.
Fairly consistent with the prior year, went up a little bit to the 5.1 million. Those are the government-wide numbers. I want to look at the fund financial statements for just a minute. Those begin on page 18. You can see that your general fund had an increase, fund balance at the end of the year of about 27.8 million. 8 million of that has been assigned for future construction. About 19.6 million is unassigned fund balance. And that's the amount that we talked about that's about 31% of your expenditures. The debt service fund has a fund balance of 4.5 million, and the capital projects fund has a fund balance of 8.9 million. That's really the remaining bond funds that you have for your capital projects. On the old bond issue that was issued prior to the new bond election in May. Pages 22 and 23 show the revenues and expenditures of your individual funds. Your general fund had an increase of $742,000. That's after a transfer. You were able to transfer $4.2 million over to your capital projects fund to fund some of those capital projects that were not funded by the bond proceeds. So again, I think that's a very positive thing. In the second column, the debt service fund, you did do about a $9 million refunding of some existing debt. You didn't issue any new bonds, but you did do a $9 million refunding. That refunding is explained in the footnotes, and I'll just briefly say that allowed you to experience about a $1 million present value savings on your debt service. So that's a positive thing for the district. I won't go through the rest of these in detail. There's some budget comparisons and some other items. All of your expenditures were within budgeted amounts, so there were no issues with that. The footnotes, some of the information on those that might be of interest to you, I'll point out. The debt footnote on pages 44 and 45, that's where we talk about that bond refunding that was accomplished and the savings that you experienced from that. The middle of page 45 shows your future debt service requirements on your existing debt. It shows each of the next 5 years and then groups of 5 years after that. Your debt service is basically flat, which is a positive thing as you go forward. You haven't built in future property value growth into your debt service schedule, which many fast growth districts have had to do. So with a flat debt service schedule like that, future property value increases actually give you additional bonding capacity. Your property tax collections were excellent. You were at 99.3% of your current year levy, which is a very high percentage. So your property tax collections were very strong. That's reflected on pages 68 and 69. This is your property tax schedule that shows the delinquent property tax balance at the end of the year. And column 3 there shows your appraised values. Again, as I mentioned earlier, your taxable values increased 21% during the year. The last section of the report I want to cover is the federal awards section that starts on page 75. There are 2 reports in this section. These reports are required due to the fact that you receive both state and federal grant funds. The first report deals with grant funds in general, and the second report deals with what are called major federal programs. So those are specific compliance requirements of larger programs. The reports are generally unmodified. We did have one finding related to one of your federal programs that dealt with some documentation requirements that there was some confusion on. There were no question cost related to that finding, so that's a positive thing. And you can read the corrective action plan. I think management has taken the appropriate steps to remedy that situation. That's really all I have. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, so the administration recommends approval of the annual financial report for the year end August 31, 2017 as presented.
I need a motion as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any question or further discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. At this time, the board will recess into closed meeting in PL1 as permitted by the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Code Subchapter 551.072 and .074. It is 8:41. We'll go back into open session at 9:22. First up, discuss and approve The 17-18 district, I'm sorry, I should mention, we're pulling item A. We're tabling that for this meeting. We'll come back up in as a future agenda item. So we'll go right to action item B, discuss and approve 17-18 district improvement plan with Dr. Glover.
Okay, we're working on our PowerPoint. Good evening, President Myers, Board of Trustees, Mr. Gallagher. As we're looking to pull up our PowerPoint, I wanted to give you a bit of a summary about our district improvement plan and our process. As I've shared in the past, what we do is we look at what are the needs of the district. And it's not just us looking at that, but it's also our District Educational Improvement Council, which is comprised of community members, parents, and staff members. Staff members. And so as we do that, we go through and we determine what are the true needs of our students. And this is testing my my skills of ad lib here.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks. Yeah. So the process is we determine. The process is we determine.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, they should have. Everybody should have. Perfect. The process is we look at our previous goals. We look at our current needs and what goals we need to set in the future based on those needs. So we have times where our goals change quite a bit and times where we have our goals that are in a continuation. And so what we look at are the performance objectives, the things we want to accomplish based on our needs, strategies of how we want to get there, and the funding for those strategies. So parts of the plan, very quickly, our comprehensive needs assessment is probably our most important stepping stone. We have a new comprehensive needs assessment process through our multiple measures of data, which is through ESSA for our federal guidelines, and it really does simplify the way that we ask what's next for our students. What's next for our district? And so we look at a lot of different pieces of data. We look at not only STAR data, which while is a critical factor, we also look at the whole child and what do students need in terms of additional opportunities, what's the community input, what do our teachers need, and things of that nature. So you'll see on about your fourth or fifth slide a sample of the strengths, and I just did just a few there for you. The fast growth district, we're excited to be that. Vast opportunities in CTE, and we're continuing to grow our advanced placement opportunities. We have innovative programming such as LINK, two-way dual language, compacted math, and multiple others. Thank you. Our attendance rating, as you saw earlier from Dr. Micah, has increased. And we're just going to cruise on down to slide 4. Would be great. And then cultural and linguistic diversity. We're very proud of that. That's a strength. Now you may ask, how can you quantify some of these things? When we come in and we do our needs assessment, which we did at both our September and November DEIC meetings, we look at not only quantifiable, tangible data, but we also look at survey results, opinions, things of that nature. And we try to roll all of those things into a general plan of what our students and our district and our teachers need. Some of our needs that came up is, while it is improving an increased number of students taking the SAT, we do have a lower dual credit enrollment among our diverse learners, so we'd really like to focus on and see that come up, making certain that everyone has the information and opportunities, which we work very hard to do, and so we want to continue to do that. Improve accountability measures in all academic, state and federal system safeguards. You have in your packet a copy of our district improvement plan, as well a little bit later under consent, you will see state and federal safeguards as well. And then also, we'd like to see more distinctions. Our campuses, principals, teachers, and kids work really hard, and we'd love to see some additional, thank you, some additional, thanks, it's mine, some additional distinctions for them to recognize their hard work. Thank you, Dr. Micah. So as I've looked through this, something that we wanted to share with you for future information, of course, it's the district improvement plan, it changes all the time. We update it multiple times a year. So even the copy you have in front of you, it is current. You'll see campus improvement plans later on in the evening. They may have been updated even since last week because it's a plan that we follow as a part of one of our guides for helping with our students' improvement. Again, we do formative plan updates. Where are we? What do we need to change? What's working well? What needs to look differently? Our DEIC meetings, which are incredibly valuable. Our development of our scorecard and dashboard, which we've spoken about this year with Mr. Gallagher as well. An ongoing review of database needs and funding. This is something that I say that we do a needs assessment once a year, but really our needs assessment is all of the time. It's really paying attention to campus and district needs based on what the students have, going what they need, and also for our teachers and campuses. So I know that was really brief and a little off the cuff, so thank you for your patience with that. As I mentioned, you do have a copy of the district improvement plan. If not, I have a backup we can pull up. You're all smiling at me, so I feel like you can see it in front of you, so that's fantastic. What questions may I answer for you regarding the district improvement plan?
Any questions? No?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay. I apologize. Next time when we come back, I will make sure that I give you enough time to get everything. That was on me. So
no problem.
My bad.
It was just testing.
I always ask them if they're ready, and I didn't even think to ask you all. So
no problem.
I apologize.
No problem at all.
Right here with 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Glover.
Sorry.
Appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a, sorry, second? Any further questions or discussion? No?
No.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, discuss and approve the annual financial report for year ended August 31st. We already did that one. We'll cross that one off again. Discuss and approve Little Elm ISD interlocal summary report.
Same for the.
Mr. Anderson.
Good evening. On this interlocal summary report, we have 2 items. One's with Tony Tipton for the Texas Health Center for Diagnostics and Surgery, and this is a practical experiences for intern students to observe medical procedures. And the second is to UT at Austin, Texas, on course with Bill Bush, and this is an employee of Little Elm ISD will participate in a 2-year fellowship in the field of counseling. And the administration recommends approval of the Little Elm ISD interlocal summary report as submitted.
Do I have a motion to approve as submitted?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
This is awesome. Not questions, but partnerships. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Tipton. Dr. Tipton.
Any other questions, concerns? Nope.
No.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, discuss and approve Little Elm ISD expenditures over 50,000 summary.
And on this report, we have one contract over 50,000 School City with Dr. Ashley Glover. And the School City product suite supports analysis and reporting for multiple types of assessments. And this is actually a decrease of 9,000 from the prior year.
Grant, is that on? Yeah, Grant, that's some in the board. Is that up here? On the board book, it's the same.
14 is the same as.
Yeah, it's the same agenda items.
12.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's one for a School City, then that's a $50,000.
Well, there's not. That's what the Frisco City one's missing. Yeah. It's the Texas Health and UT are listed twice in our board book.
Yeah. Page are you on?
Okay.
So the same one that's on.
So sorry.
212 and 212 and 214 are the same page.
On the interlocal.
Yeah.
Interlocal is here.
As presented, okay.
Okay. 50,000.
Can we pull it up? Is it possible to pull it up on this screen real quick?
No, I just have it here. I don't have it on the screen.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So it was submitted to the board.
It's just $50,000?
No, it's
The school city for over $50,000. Prior year was $70,000. In the current year, it decreased $9,000 to $60,767. Yeah, and that's Dr. Ashley Glover's contract. And again, it's a school city product suite, supports the analysis and reporting for multiple types of assessments.
Okay, I need a motion to approve as submitted. I'm sorry, as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Okay, I'm on the right one. Discuss and approve the financial reports.
This here is our monthly financial report, and this is for the period ending October 2017. And there's budget amendments include all amendments through November 2017. And the major budget amendment is that we're rolling forward the 2016-17 funds for projects and furniture and fixtures, which cross fiscal years. And this is an amount of $1,552,713. And our fund balance analysis, our 2015-16 audit, we ended with a $27 million fund balance. And the 2016-17, which was presented today in our audit, at this point in time was projected, but our discretionary fund balance is $3,474,000, and we had a change of $742,000 added to our fund balance from 2015-16 to 2016-17. And our 2017 budget, we had $27,786,000, and in the proposed budget amendments, we'll be adding or decreasing our fund balance $1,552,713. And again, that's for the rolled forward projects from prior year. They're all one purchase items, so that's not an ongoing cost to the district, and we do this each year. So right now we'll have if you approve these financials, we'll have in the budget amendment, we'll have a $1.5 million deficit, budgeted deficit. And this is our financials, our initial budget, September 1. Our estimated revenue is $66.5 million. Our proposed amendments, $81,000 in additional local revenue, which give us $66,694,000. And again, at the appropriations at the campus level, we're budgeting 76% of our budget. Again, and also our appropriations at the beginning of the year was $66,551,000. Now we're at $68,241,000. And again, with the deficit, we'll go forward with a budgetary deficit of $1,552,713. This is just a quick summary of our budget to actual. Our total revenue is $66,600,000. We've realized $8 million to our 12% of our revenue. Our expenditures, we've realized about 21% of our appropriations. And it's a net negative $6.5 million. Our cash flow in investments, we had $44.9 million at the beginning of the period, and we decreased about $3 million, so our ending cash is about $41.8 million. These are the two capital projects that we have going forward. The high school expansion, which is completed. We've paid out $19.6 million. We have $1.8 million balance. There's still items that have not cleared the books yet, and there might be a few items that are still being worked on at the high school. But in the transportation operation facility, we have about $7 million estimated budget. We've expensed $561,000, so we have a projected balance of about $6.4 million. and Rod will be discussing, I guess, the site package today, and then we'll have another discussion on the total cost of the transportation facility at our next board meeting, and I'll also bring that to the Finance Committee so we can see the additional costs that'll be associated with the transportation operation facility. And these are the other financials that are in the board packet. And the administration recommends approval of the October 2017 financial reports as presented.
So, sorry. I thought you were done. No, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
I'll start.
I'll start. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, I thought you were done with
You're
it.
fine. Any other questions?
Yeah, question. That $1.5 million we have that's unfunded balance, does that come out of the general fund, or how do we handle that?
Yes, this comes out of the general fund, and if you go back to our fund balance analysis, we see that we had a discretionary fund balance of like $3 million, and that's what that's for.
Okay.
And these are projects, again, that have not been completed and will cross fiscal year, so we'll complete.
Okay, so we'll have 1.5 million left over from the discretionary fund balance once we pay for this.
Yes, our discretionary fund balance will cover these costs. Okay. And it won't touch our, we have a bar policy of 24%, and plus we have some other contingencies in our fund balance that we're still will stay financially sound.
Is this going to, do you think it's going to continue year over year, or this 1.5 million is a?
No, this 1.5 million will probably get paid out in the next probably 60 to 90 days.
Okay, and that's mostly due to project cost though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't expect to see that year over year, just project costs.
Not these costs.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next up, discuss and consider approval of GMP for transportation facility site package. Mr. Reeves.
Well, the thing about it is I got a couple questions on this.
Hi. Stanley on.
No,
No, your mic is on.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. My mic on. Thanks so much, board members. Just to go over the consideration of approval for the guaranteed maximum price for the transportation facility site package. Remember, we broke this up into two parts, that site package and the building package, just to make sure we expedite the project and make sure we hit our deadline of October of 2018, because that's when our lease is up with the town of Little Elm. So I'm going to go ahead and let you hit the arrow, I think, Frank, just to make sure. So this just shows, I think in your packet may be a little different, the one I gave you. This just shows a floor plan that's about a little over 15,000 square foot transportation facility. That includes some areas for operational services, 4 bays for our buses, also a mezzanine level, and then an area for maintenance and things like that for a shop. If we go to the next one. This just kind of shows the site plan. We did show an area for future expansion, whatever we want to make sure we left enough area for whatever the board wanted to do in the future for whatever type of facility. We didn't want to build ourselves into a corner. So there are some areas for expansion. This takes up about 12 acres of a 42-acre site. And so remember, this site is also the location of one of our middle school sites. So we're working with Huckabee on that and make sure that we coordinate these two facilities together. We go to the next one. This just shows the guaranteed maximum price. And if you look at it, there's what we call the GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price, and then those items below the line, which are those soft costs, such as, architects, engineering fees. This is
Yeah, I was going to ask, does everybody have a copy of it? Because it's, okay, because I can't read that.
Oh, you can hear that?
No, you're good.
Am I good? Oh, okay. Oh, well, here, I think if you hit the next one, I blew it up. So hopefully you can see it. Hey, Okay, so I knew you would say that. So what this shows is just that total GMP, Balfour's GMP of 4.2, a little over 4.2 million. We did add a alternate 1A. What that is we want to make sure that we increase the fire line for any expansion. So it goes from an 8-inch line to a 12-inch line. So this if you look at what we're asking for you tonight is to approve $4,301,367. For the guaranteed maximum price. So that's the number that we're asking, but we wanted to show you the total project cost for this site package. And if you look at that bottom line, it's $5 million, a little over $5 million. And so what that does is includes architects and engineering fees, and attorney's fees, geotechnical surveys. We also placed in those architectural fees for that. Remember, we were at the transportation facility. Was it going to be at the stadium at one point? They gave us $2.5 million to make it work. They said that's all we have. And so we went through that process, bid it twice. Hydell redesigned it twice at their cost. Then we looked at doing an operational service facility plus our transportation there. We remember we needed $4 million to take that to go to the high school, so we had to redesign it. So we want to make sure that we showed you the total project cost from the beginning for this. And so that's just kind of those breakdowns, and I can answer any questions you have on that. We did want to show you before you voted on the guaranteed maximum price for the site package, an anticipated cost for the building package. So if you go to the next slide, if you see it on there, well, hopefully it's this page right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what that says is we're looking at it should be, I think, 1.3 million is what we're looking at for that building package plus your design costs and all of that. Total cost between the two is a little over $9 million is what we're looking at for both packages when we bring that to you. The guaranteed maximum price is only for the site package. That's the guarantee what the contractor is going to give us. We won't know until we bid the other one. We did see good coverage from contractors on the site package, and the numbers were in lower than we expected. So that was a good sign. So on that note, the administration would recommend the approval of the guaranteed maximum price for the Little Elm ISD Transportation Facility site package as submitted. And I'll answer any questions.
I need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
On the slide that you had here and on the paper, there was about a $70,000 difference in the, I guess, the total project cost. And it says something about the propane tank, and then there's a propane tank installation.
Yes. So I'll make sure you have the correct number, but we did purchase a propane tank from Northwest Propane for a little over $70,000. And then there's costs to relocate that from Hackberry to the new transportation site, plus all the infrastructure, which is a little over $102,000, I believe. Okay. And so if you add those two together, so like 170 something, 180 for propane tanks.
Okay, so what I have here in front of me is correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. The chain link fence and the gate, that's $200,000 for that?
Well, it could be, I have to make sure I look at that number. Okay. And so what we do is it could be including the design master fence plus the stone columns.
Okay, so that's actual fencing and the stone columns around the building? Yes. Okay. And the site utilities, you're looking at $500,000 for that?
Yes.
Okay. And the fuel dispenser, we're looking at almost $200,000.
Yes.
Okay. That fuel dispenser, that's the actual unit that they use for the buses to pull up and everything, right?
That's correct. And so we're going to have a new system to where we'll be able to monitor, who gets fuel. We'll be able to have it integrated to where we can pull reports to see how much unleaded fuel, how much propane fuel we're using. We also have an interlocal agreement with the town of Little Elm for shared use of fuel too. Okay. So we have the same system that they have to make sure that we can work between them.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
The only other question I had, it looks like the site itself changed a little bit from what we've seen before. So the building has moved a little further north.
Yes.
And the space behind, is that I can't remember what you call it, the ditch area?
The detention area?
Yeah, retention.
So, yeah, retention. So if you look at the phase one, we are going to have most of the parking for employees within the bus parking area because we can make it work. Phase two will show that we have additional parking out front towards Hill Lane. What we did was we designed the detention area to be big enough for phase two to have to come back and do it twice. And so we want to make sure we had enough area for that detention to allow for the parking to come in later.
So is that making it, though, that we're going to have two entrances? Because didn't we, well, three actually, right?
Yes, we have two off Dixon and we have one off Hill.
Because originally we weren't going to have one off of Hill, right?
No, we need one off Hill because we remember we were trying to work with, remember the town of Little Elm was working with TxDOT to have a warranted light at Hill and 720. And so it's easier for those buses to take a right turn. So we needed an exit out of on Hill Lane to make sure we can go down to 720 and take a right. Because you know that curve around El Dorado is a little, the citizens brought that up to us, so.
Yeah. Because basically they're supposed to enter off Dixon and basically exit onto Hill.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then when they go onto Hill, they pretty much should turn right.
Should is a good word, should. That's why so.
Unless they happen to be going down to right over near Garza Lane and pick up kids down over there.
That's correct.
So you're gonna be sending maybe 1, 2 buses back down Dixon Road every day. Everyone else is going out.
That's correct. That's correct. And remember that, this is a joint project with the town of Little Elm. They've already completed Dixon ahead of schedule, which is some good news. And so they paid for that offsite development cost. Plus that lift station is part of this job. They've already working on that. That will support not only our facility, but also the middle school facility, which is good. So we sized it the correct way for that as well. And I've been working with Mr. Clay Walker on the fiber as well. And so we'll make sure that fiber is big enough to handle the middle school when it comes online.
When are we projected to start?
It's going to be projected to start in the first part of February.
When do we need to be out?
We need to be out by the end of
October 2018. Okay. Mr. Peach reminds me that every week.
I was going to say, I was going to give you a friendly reminder.
He's invited to all our meetings.
We will be done by October 21st.
Yes, sir.
2018.
Yes, sir.
When they get learning cottages.
Because there will be no extensions.
I understand. Yes, sir.
Okay.
One thing I did notice, that entranceway out of Dixon, they have that 2 palm trees or 2 trees on the side there. Look like that
only 2 trees?
Yeah.
It's like 800.
Looks like there's 2 trees on the side when you actually enter. I'm curious about line of sight. It looks like those trees may be blocking some line of sight to get those buses in there.
Well, we'll make sure, that's a great point, Mr. English. We'll make sure that it's representation on that, but what we'll do is I'll double check to make sure because that's a great point. And what we'll do is, remember we had to add like 3 layers of landscaping as per the town PD requirements. So, but that's a great point. We'll double check that.
I got you. All right. Okay.
All right, any other questions? No, ma'am. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All in favor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So moved.
Next up, consent agenda. We have no items to pull today, so I just need a motion to approve consent agenda as is.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Comments. So the one thing I need to mention, TASB continuing education credit reporting, all have met their hours with the exception of Mr. Blackwood. I believe you came on in May, so I think you have a little bit of time, but you need to get hours in. The other item that I had was notice to file has been posted for the upcoming election. And then third item was the workshop. We'd like to schedule a workshop in March. There's been several items brought up to the board. So I think what we'll do is probably send out some dates. Does that work, Mr. Gallagher?
Okay. We'll send out some dates for maybe the first part of March. See what works for everybody.
Okay. If anybody on the board has additional items or just something that you think may warrant a workshop, just send it in. I think we have 3 items on there right now.
I mean, do we want to discuss the JROTC budget and see what can be done?
Doing
I would say just send that in and
The
we can see if we
workshop.
can add it to the agenda.
Yeah, the workshop.
Yeah, I definitely want to take at that.
And then the other, so workshop in March. The other item I wanted to bring up was the NSBA annual conference is in April in San Antonio.
Yep.
Registration, I know Ms. Badia's already sent out something to the board, but just FYI, the registration ends the 10th.
Okay, I'm in.
Of January?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let her know, and then that way she can get you registered and scheduled. Okay?
All right.
Those are the items that I had, so I will move to Mr. English. Board comments?
Nothing else. I think I'm good. I've expressed what I had to do.
Okay, Mr. Flores?
Just happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, however way you celebrate. Enjoy the holidays and the time off.
Thank you. Mr. Olson?
Only thing I didn't see on here, which it hit me a second ago, was the BOPs. We were going to change that last section based upon information that we were going to get confirmation on. So we just need to put that on the January agenda, please, to make sure we revisit the BOPs so we can revise them. About the comment section. We just need to verify that. And
I did verify, we can have it at the end before work comment.
For
Another citizen.
each individual.
Like another citizen.
yeah.
Not interact with them.
But we can obtain citizen input and then turn around and comment during our comment section. No?
It's not an agenda.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, so
Okay, well,
And so if they do it again, it's already done. It's not on the
okay, well,
table.
we'll talk about it because I want to make sure the way we put it in there is the way we intended. If we can't put it in the way we intended,
Then there's no
reason to do it that way. So I'll follow up with you, Sonia, and we can discuss that to make sure. Other than that, echo Mr. Flores, happy holidays. Everybody please enjoy some time off. I know I'm personally off for the next 2 weeks, so I'm going to try to do something during that time. And y'all please do the same because y'all worked very hard for the whole entire year and you deserve some time off. So thank you very much for everything you've done for the school district and the kids.
Mr. Montemayor?
I just want to echo that sentiment. Just, Merry Christmas, enjoy the time off, and, just come back revitalized in January.
Ms. Harding?
Just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. That's it.
Mr. Blackwood?
Again, also, just want to thank everyone for all the time and effort they put in. It's very much appreciated. And thank you also, Mr. Gallagher, for your first few months. I know it's probably been pretty fun and exciting for you, but you deserve some time off also. So instead of not all just them, please enjoy some time off yourself for a couple of days at least. And thank you very much.
Superintendent comments?
Yeah, just very briefly, I'll echo what each of you had said just about Merry Christmas to everyone and enjoy the holiday break. But I want to say a special thank you to and congratulations to Kelly Carr, the recipient of our Triple E Award. Also the PAC members and the foundation for coming out tonight. That was really special to recognize them as well. But a huge thank you. And again, he's not here, but I wanted to thank Dr. Strike for coming tonight and being here for that recognition. And I know we'll have some time to continue recognizing him before he moves on to Florida. So we've got some things planned. And but again, just a really nice night recognizing some special people in the district.
All right. Then at this time, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll close at 9:55.